Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Hi, it's Haley from Your Clear Next Step. Did you know our mission is to help people have better workdays so that together they can co-create better communities? We do this by helping people make authentic human connections, deliver real business value, and treat change as a process, not an event. We have several upcoming classes that you won't want to miss. Sign up today at yourclearnextstep.com/events.
Hello, friends. Sinikka Waugh here with Your Clear Next Step. And I am so delighted to spend a few minutes with you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Even Better podcast. This is part of our ongoing mission here at Your Clear Next Step to help us all have better work days so that together we can co-create even better communities. I am grateful for your time. This is one of those podcasts that we get to spend just a little time together, just you and me. Sometimes, in fact, a lot of the time we have guests on here, and I'm delighted when I get to spend time with my guests. I use that word a lot, don't I? Delighted. Enthusiastic is my default setting, right? But delighted I use a lot, and joyful is one I use a lot. I have a dear friend who reminded me yesterday about the things that come out of us when the pressure is on, right? And when the pressure is on right now, I'm in the midst of my busy season and there's a lot of pressure right now. And there is a lot of joy, right? There is a lot of delight and there is a lot of enthusiasm because I have a default setting that is grateful, and I have a default setting that is filled with joy and filled with a peace that passes all understanding. And that doesn't mean I don't still have my crappy days. And I know I have someone listening to this right now who experienced one of my crappy days pretty recently. And I hope that we can work through that with grace and forgiveness, and that I'm allowed to have crappy days too. And, but for the most part, right, the deep down balance is this understanding that I am filled with gratefulness, I am filled with gratitude, and I am filled with joy. And so I am delighted that we're spending time together. So on to the topic at hand and what motivates me in this context. And we're going to talk a little bit about goals today and planning and the cadence of the work that we do, which to some people would be like, oh, that doesn't sound very joyful, but it is. It is. It is. It is. And I want to show you why. And we won't spend a ton of time on it, but we will spend some time on things that are super important about this. We just had some, time is all relative this time of year. But fairly recently, I was engaged in some quarterly planning discussions and a number of coaching conversations with my clients. And so I've been thinking about planning in a couple of different ways. And I just want to share some of these nuggets today because I think they're really, really important to how we show up at work. And I think they're important to how we show up in our lives. And I think we need to spend some time really thinking about them. And so I just offer some ideas here. So I've got about 4, so bear with me as we get through these pretty quickly here. The first one is around goal setting. And maybe you're not a goal-oriented person and goals don't drive you, goals don't light you up, but maybe you are. So let's start with this first one about goals. And when we have a goal set out on the horizon, when we have a goal that we're working towards and a goal that we anticipate, for many of us, goal-oriented or goal-focused, that goal, if we write it down and keep it in front of us, that goal can light us up. If we have that goal and we aspire to it, that goal can pick us back up when we fall. But more importantly, when we are in an organizational context of any sort, whether we're a family and we're all headed in the same direction, whether we're in a marriage and we got 2 of us going the same way, whether we're in a relationship and we're trying to build that relationship, that friendship, that small group relationship, whether we're in a church or a faith community or a community volunteer organization or in an organization at a workplace, that goal is so often the thing that aligns us when we have disagreement. And my friends, we're going to have disagreement. We're going to disagree about stuff. We're going to disagree about our approaches. We're going to disagree about the how. We're going to have crappy days. We're going to have days when the tension is so high and that we're moving so fast that we forget to be on our best behaviors. And it's the goal, it's the common purpose that unites us. And so those goals are so important. My friend, they're not the goals are not optional. Even if goals don't light you up, the goals need to light us up because they are the thing that unite us. What is that common purpose? If you are a believer, I am part of a faith community right now that has as one of its goals to make heaven more crowded. Man, as a person of faith, what a great goal that is, right? And there are goals maybe in our organization. Gosh, I hope it's not to just make more money. Ugh. But maybe it's something else about our goal. It's to serve a particular population or to do good in a certain way or to elevate a certain type of thing. Here at Your Clear Next Step, it's to help people have better work days so that we can co-create better communities. What's your goal? What's your goal? And then for you personally, your goal it doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be challenging. But what's your goal? What's your purpose? And even as we look at SMART goals, and they got a bad rap for a while because there's this really complex process, right? SMART, specific and measurable and attainable and relevant and time bound. It sounds like you have to go through this big, long procedure. But as I've been doing several leadership courses lately and getting those tools that we have that are so easy, trying to make the complex simple. SMART goals, even if they're smartly written, even if they're well written, they don't have to be long and drawn out. Run the Boston Marathon in 2026. That's a SMART goal, and it's not long. Make more money than I did last year. Spend less money than we earn. Lose 5 pounds by January 15th. These are all examples of SMART goals. They're specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, they are relevant to whoever it was that wrote them. They are time bound because they have dates and they have specific concentrations, but they're not long and drawn out. So I invite you to think about the fact that your goal needs to unite us, it needs to bring us together, but it doesn't mean it has to be long and drawn out and complex and fuzzy. And we've got tools and resources that'll help you. If you need help on that, do reach out. So the second concept I want to offer is the idea of rocks. And this idea of rocks came, I think, initially from the first place that I heard about it was a college professor somewhere along the line that did this beautiful analogy of, and he brought a jar and put the jar in front of a classroom and did the analogy about if you have this jar and you have all these things that are going to go in the jar, you have rocks and you have pebbles and you have sand and you have water. And if you put these things in the jar in the wrong order, was his analogy. If you put them in the jar in the wrong order, it's not all going to fit. And he demonstrated this with an object lesson in front of the classroom. And he said, if you put the rocks in first, and he put the big rocks in the jar, and the jar looked full. And then he put some pebbles in, and stuff still fit. And the jar looked full, but there was still room for sand. And then he put the sand in. And the jar looked full, but there was still room for water. And he put the water in. And then the jar was full. And then his point was, but if I'd started with the water, if I put the water in first and filled the jar up with water, there would be no room for the rocks or the pebbles or the sand. Or if I'd put the sand or the pebbles in first, right? You get the idea. If you put it in backwards, it doesn't make sense. So there's this idea of rocks. And we are an EOS shop. We follow the entrepreneurial operating system and have really delighted in the process that follows. And if you'd like to learn more about that, please, 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 I beg you, reach out. We can connect you with good resources or we can help you in key ways. But the idea there around the entrepreneurial operating system and the rocks, which was one of the tools and part of the conversational language. The idea there is, in addition to the daily grind, in addition to the daily stuff that you do, the daily brushing of your teeth and the brushing and the flossing and the daily exercises that you do to keep yourself healthy and the check-in of your email. Checking your email is never going to be a rock. It's the big stuff that matters so that you don't blink and it's gone. What are those things? And those rocks help you achieve your goals. Those rocks are the big ticket items, the big purposeful, meaningful things. And I love this idea as we think about planning ahead and as we think about our lives. To me, the idea of rocks is, what are those big things that you have to focus on so that you don't blink and it's gone? So that we're not constantly waiting for what's next. We don't wake up every morning thinking, oh gosh, I can't wait till it's Friday. I can't wait till this season is over. I can't wait till it gets warm again. I can't wait till my kids are in their toddlers. I can't wait till they're in their teenagers. I can't wait till they're graduated and out of the house. My goodness gracious, we're just waiting, waiting, waiting. We're not paying attention to the big stuff that matters. So we don't blink and it's gone. What are those big rocks for you? And that's so important. The rocks. So the goals is the first one. The idea of rocks is the second one. The third concept I'm going to surface here for us to be thinking about is the importance of cadence. There is a natural rhythm to our lives. And this it aligns with the idea of rocks, and it fits in with the goals too. But there's a cadence to our lives. There's an awareness right now that our human attention span, it was at one time 8 seconds long. It's now down to 7, thanks to the distraction of our devices. But there's this natural rhythm to our lives, right? There's a circadian rhythm, right? You've got morning and you got noon and you got night. There's a rhythm to the lives of our careers. There's the rhythm to our lives of the seasons. There's a rhythm to our lives of the week and the weekend. There is a cadence. There is a rhythm to our lives. And as I think about the rhythm to our lives, how easy is it in that rhythm to miss something? How easy is it for us to get into that rhythm and then miss something? To just get into that natural scheduled rhythm or that natural rhythm and miss something that should have been there. Now, this is a little bit different from the idea of rocks. So the rocks, I think we need to be super intentional about the big stuff that matters. But even for the seasonal stuff, even for, let's look at the campaigns that go out there around daylight savings time when the fire safety folks remind us to change the batteries in our smoke detectors, right? This is because in the natural rhythm of our lives, we forget that the batteries run dry. Oh, there's a powerful analogy for you. In the natural seasonality of our lives, we forget that the batteries run dry. Here at Your Clear Next Step, we have a seasonality of things, and we do a very, very heavy amount of our business in the season between Labor Day and Thanksgiving. And I've alluded to it before. I've talked about it for years. I know this to be true. We tried to create a second busy season in the spring, not because we needed more busy, but I was trying to balance out those peaks and valleys, not to bring the peaks down, but to lift the valleys up and to balance out the cash flow of the year and to help us be able to staff appropriately for those seasons. So we know about the cadence, right? But in those ideas of cadence, here are a couple of examples. I know that we have quarterly planning. Well, one quarter in our history, we forgot to get the quarterly planning on our schedule. We completely missed it. And because we missed it and because of our busyness, we were almost 30 days late. So we were a full month into the following quarter before we were able to get that quarterly planning on the schedule by the time we saw it. I have a couple of women in my social life that I love to connect with because of a particular and very poignant moment in our lives that we connected. And we find solace and we find joy and we find comfort and we find growth in the way we connect together. And in our daily cadence of our lives, we forgot, we missed the routine connection of when we should connect. And 7 months went by without our regularly scheduled dinner. I had a podcast that I recorded, and if you have a chance to hear the podcast with Laura Rotter, and I invite you to listen to that one. And she talks about the seasonality and the cadence of her career with a third of her career, right? There's this cadence. And if we get into the cadence and we miss the stuff that's supposed to be scheduled, like that check-in to say, am I still joyful here? Is this still what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this it? And who was it? Carrie Copley also wrote a book, Finding Joy, Living an A+ Life in a C- World. And I've had her as a podcast guest as well. She too talks about that check that we need to do at a regular interval to make sure that we're still finding joy in our lives. Right? There's an importance of cadence. So here's what I want to invite us to do with this idea of cadence is put on our schedules the regular cadence of things that need to be scheduled. This I know there's a bunch of stuff that can't be scheduled. Oh, Sinikka, I live this unpredictable life. There's so much that we can't control. There's so much that's unschedulable, blah, 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 blah. I know that. You think I don't know that? I know that. There's stuff that's unpredictable. I'm at the whim of my clients. For heaven's sakes, I run a business. You think I don't know that there's stuff that we can't control? I've been doing this for 18 years. I know there's stuff we don't control. I have two children. One's 20, one's 22. I am blissfully married for 29 or 28 years, however long it's been. My goodness, I know there's stuff we can't control. Don't tell me that. And there is stuff that we can schedule. There is stuff that we can control, that we can predict. I do know that at the beginning of every month, there are bills to pay. I do know that at the end of every month, there's a thing that I want to do. I do know in reflection. I do know that every quarter, I expect to do this. I do know that every quarter, our team intends to carve off time to volunteer together as a community. I do know that we have annual cyclical processes that we do. I do know there are marketing deliverables every quarter. I do know there are sales deliverables every quarter. There's stuff we do as a business every quarter, and there's stuff that I do personally every month, every quarter. Get it on the calendar. If it has to be moved, it has to be moved. But if we schedule it, then we won't miss it. If we schedule it, then we won't miss it. If we schedule it, we run less likelihood of missing it. And there is importance to that cadence, my friends. And then we get to number 4. Last one will come as no surprise, and I won't beat this one to death because you've heard me say it time and time again. Why are we doing what we're doing? Every single time. Every time we approach a task, every time we approach a project, every time we approach an initiative, can we stop and can we ask ourselves, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What's our why behind the thing? Because I wonder if sometimes we will abandon work that doesn't need to be done. I wonder if sometimes we can free ourselves from things that are unnecessary. I wonder if sometimes we can stop the redundant work or think through tasks and not do dumb stuff. I wonder if sometimes we can avoid unnecessary questions. I wonder if sometimes we can do better work and stop shooting holes in the bottom of the boat. I wonder if sometimes that can make us slow down. I wonder if sometimes when we get back to our why, for us individually as people, for us as participants in a community goal or an organizational goal, for us as productive citizens and members of society, for us as leaders, for us as engagers in conversation, if we ask every time, wait, why? What's the why behind this task? What's the why behind this action? What's the why behind this project? Why are we doing this again? Why are we doing this again? And make sure it's aligned to either who we are as a person or why we do what we do as an organization. Man, I think we got a better chance of spending our time wisely as organizations and as people. I hope something in there is useful for you, my friends. Thank you again for listening and indulging me in this conversation. If you have nuggets of this, if you want to contribute to this conversation and chime in, would you join me on social media? Would you send me a note, chime in some way? We've got tools and resources that will relate to this, and you'll see those come out related to the podcast and related to our inspiration in your inbox. If you're not getting that on Tuesdays, I invite you to sign up for that at our website. You can get inspiration in your inbox every Tuesday at 11. If you're not following us on social media, I invite you to follow us on social media. If you want to engage in some of our learning events in 2026, we've got quarterly learning events. There's lots of classes, half-day classes, full-day classes, 1-hour classes, lots of opportunity for you to engage. Some are live and in person, some are live virtual. Always they're live and engaging. And then we've got free and low-cost resources available on our website as well. Would you engage with us, though? We'd love to hear what's meaningful and useful for you so we can keep providing content to help you have a better workday so that together we can co-create better communities. Thanks again for listening. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.